Hey, welcome back to another edition of Tune In Economics. I'm your host, Elizabeth Salinas, and together with my work wife, Joelle Hernandez, we're bringing econ to you so you don't have to go to econ. So let's start today with a quick quiz. The question is, how fast is money? Is it running, walking, crawling, or lying on its side in the fetal position? The answer, just like a lot of things in economics, is it depends. It depends on a lot of things, like what the economy is actually doing. I would say the answer is not A, B, C, or D, but actually B. V is for velocity and talks to us about how many times a year a dollar is spent. So if we look at a time like the full employment GDP where we were in February 2020, we are looking at a really fast turnover in the velocity of money. People have a job, they're spending money, and money is moving quickly through the circular flow. If we look at where we are right now with so many people out of a job with COVID-19, money is on its side in the fetal position. We've had a major slip in aggregate demand. So the full employment output we've gone from the full employment output to a much lesser version, right? We call this a recessionary gap. Who came up with this theory, and how can we use these ideas to work on the situation that we happen to find ourselves in right now? Monetarists, most famously Milton Friedman and his somewhat less known collaborator, Anna Schwartz, came up with the equation of exchange, and it was this idea that if you will build it, the economy will get there. So build up the money supply gradually so that real GDP can grow. And what this equation means is M is for the money supply, V is for velocity of money, P is the average price level, and Y is output of the nation. So the monetarists assumed that the velocity of money basically stayed the same. So V was in the couch potato mode where it just sat still and nothing happened to it. We found out over time, though, that this isn't the case. The velocity of money changes according to what's going on in the economy. Okay, so how do we get the velocity of money back up and running? So the couch to 5K strategies during the COVID-19 crisis that we're in right now has been approached differently by different countries. In Europe, what they're doing is paying salaries. So people don't lose their job. They're put on a temporary hold in their work, and the government takes over, paying 75% or 80% of their salary or some percentage of their of what they were making before. In the United States, what they're doing is paying unemployment. It's important to note that this past week, the claims for unemployment reached historic highs. 3.1 million people filed for unemployment. And just to put that in perspective, the previous high had been around 680,000, and that was back sometime in the 80s. So this is unheard of, the amount of people who are reaching out who have lost their source of income. Now, in other places, they haven't really addressed this problem. People have ignored it, denied it, argued and blamed, and actually done nothing. And they've left people without a source of income. And this is going to have a terrible impact in the economy unless political groups can come together and make strong decisions quickly, right? So if we look at this on the Phillips curve, which, as you remember, talks about the trade-offs between inflation on the y-axis and unemployment on the x-axis, at the full employment level of GDP, in the long-run position, we were looking at an unemployment rate in the United States of somewhere above 3%. But now, with this huge increase in claims for unemployment, we're looking at, the best case scenario right now is probably unemployment around 10%, but that could go as high as 20%. It depends a lot on what happens in the next few weeks. On the monetary side, there's also a role for the Federal Reserve and for central banks. So the Cash to 5K monetary edition is to really boost up investor confidence and maintain liquidity in the banking system. So what we've seen here is, like we talked about last week, a massive increase in the availability in the money supply in general, and this should improve what's available in the loanable funds market. If you remember, loanable funds is the money that's available to be borrowed. Okay, so the demand for loanable funds comes from borrowers who might need to take out a loan. So for example, a small business that needs a bridge loan right now to be able to take care of its expenses. Meanwhile, it seems its sales go down to almost nothing, would be a demander of loanable funds. Suppliers of loanable funds traditionally are savers. It could be firms that are banking their retained earnings. The supply of loanable funds has been also kind of beefed up because banks are unable to increase their excess reserve through policies that the Fed has made recently. So what we get is an increase in the quantity of loanable funds, a decrease in the interest rate. Tune in next time where we cross over to the other side, the supply side. That's right, it's an 80s throwback edition where we talk Reaganomics.
Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says?
Thanks for tuning in.